Today's episode is one of courage, survival, and reclaiming your voice. We're honored to be joined by Tanya Bales, author and survivor, whose life was forever changed by her experience living with the man the world came to know as Dirty John. In her book, Tanya shares what it's really like behind the headlines, how manipulation, coercive control, and psychological abuse can hide in plain sight, and how even strong, capable women can find themselves trapped in dangerous relationships. This is not just a true crime story. It's a powerful lesson in awareness, resilience, and healing. Today, Tanya takes us behind the sensational narrative to talk about red flags, recovery, and what it truly means to survive and rebuild after trauma.
CRNA Financial Planning is a sponsor of Beyond the Mask podcast. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group. Nothing in this podcast should be construed as investment advice. Plus, did you know listening to our podcast can earn you Class B credits? For details on how to submit, visit the CE credit section at beyondthemaskpodcast.com. Welcome to Beyond the Mask, innovation and opportunities for CRNAs and advanced practice nurses, with certified financial planner Jeremy Stanley and CRNA Sharon Pierce. Jeremy Stanley has worked with CRNAs for more than 23 years, and Sharon Pierce is a former president of the AANA and the NCANA. Join us as we leave the operating room and learn the latest in the CRNA and advanced practice nurse industries. Beyond the Mask starts in 10, 9, 8, 7.
Tanya, welcome to the show. It's such a pleasure. We've been wanting to have you on for a long time. I know Sharon has probably hounded you a little bit because this has been her baby, but we're so glad to have you on this morning.
Well, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit today, but you've written a book, so we'll talk about that. But, you know, for maybe our listeners who don't know about Tanya, they might have heard the story of Dirty John, but they don't really know about you. Give a little bit about your background.
I'm a Midwest Catholic girl from Ohio. I used to watch MASH as a kid with my dad because my dad controlled the television, and that made me want to be a nurse first. And then we had to write
Hot Lips? You wanted to be Hot Lips?
Absolutely. I mean, maybe not the drama there.
Who didn't want to be Hot Lips, Hula?
Yeah. Okay. You too, Sharon.
That's right.
Yeah. So in nursing school, we had to write a paper, and I opened the page to nurse anesthesia. And I thought, wow, well, that sounds more important and more responsibility. And it's in the operating room, which is where I wanted to be. And I set my sights on that and became a nurse anesthetist in 1991 at the age of 25.
Wow.
You've been given anesthesia a year longer than me.
Oh, is that right? I graduated February 1st of 91.
Yeah.
I mean, you both look great. So, I mean,
thanks.
to be giving anesthesia since 1991 and 92. I mean, you guys.
Oh, I was just looking at her thinking, I thought I would have been given anesthesia longer than her.
Yeah, you do look younger than I would.
I'll take it.
Yeah, you look great.
I'll take it.
So Tanya, let's talk a little bit about, why you decided to write a book about this. I mean, there's been so much out there about this, but why a book at this point?
At least 20, 25 years, people who even heard part of my story have said, you should write a book. You should write a book. Well, I'm not an author, I'm not a writer. I'm not an author. And the process is literally, it is hard. And it took someone who listened to, I had a podcast on Audible, that listened to that podcast and said, Tanya, you have a story to tell. Not everybody listens to Audible. Not everybody watches Netflix. And you're missing a whole group of people who are readers. And so it was, her suggestion to help me write my story, why we have a book. Because I wasn't going to, after the Audible series, honestly, I thought I was pretty much done. But these stories tend to recycle as you see all of the big crime stories. Every 10 years is a new round of documentaries. And you think, what else is there to know? Well, there usually is a lot of learning, a lot of healing that can be learned, through the process. So that's the reason someone asked me to write it.
Okay.
let's not bury the lead here. Tell us the name of your book and when it was released and how people can get your book.
Okay, thank you. The book is called When You See It, How I Outsmarted and Outlasted Dirty John. And it is available on Amazon. It was just released January 13th. And I'll brag here a minute. It is an Amazon bestseller. And
Yeah.
I may owe that to the anesthesia community, quite honestly, for the people who rallied behind it.
That's
Now,
awesome.
you did an audio piece of it too, because I remember when you posted on Facebook that you were in the process of doing the audio. Has it been released yet? Because to be honest, that's how I consume content. I don't sit and read books because Jerry
Yes.
works me far too hard.
Yes. I'm kind of the same way. If I can't listen to it in my car, then it's probably not happening. Yeah, it was released on audiobook January 27th. I am not the reader of the book. I thought maybe I wanted to do that and then quickly changed my mind. No, I don't want to read this whole book out loud. So it is read by a professional.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Also available on Kindle. So all the ways.
Okay.
Awesome.
Very good.
So this is just, I mean, it's just so interesting to me because, working with CRNAs, now being married to a CRNA for 15, almost 16 years, the mentality of a CRNA to be able to fall for someone who had all these traits and was able to mask it. I mean, most CRNAs pick up on that. Now, I will say, and Sharon, you can vouch for me, there are a subset of CRNAs out there that marry men that we're all like, why? What did you do that for? So what's interesting here to me is how someone can fall for someone like this and not see the signs along the way. Like, I mean, is it love? What is it?
You just went for the meat of it first thing, didn't you?
Yeah.
Well, I'm
That's
just
okay.
saying that from me, from my perspective, not being a CRNA, but knowing you guys so well, it does amaze me that I see a lot of not only female CRNAs, but male CRNAs as well, make decisions that you're like, really? You didn't see that?
Honestly, I think talking about this is very important because the more we understand and learn, the smarter we will be. And that's part of the reason I want to tell my story. I do like to say that it was 1988. Things were a little bit harder back then. We didn't know about red flags. I think I did feel some of those things, like my body reacted to some things that, hey, that doesn't seem right. But when you're dealing with a psychopath, and I don't say that lightly, John was deemed a psychopath after his death by someone who is a criminal behavioral analyst who scored him a 40 out of 40. So we are dealing with a psychopath here. I think and it's not just CRNAs, it's all kinds of smart women, right?
Right.
So I want to point that out too. But as CRNAs, we are all of the things that a psychopath and even people who aren't quite a psychopath are looking for. We're deeply caring. We're agreeable. We're conscientious. We're loyal to a fault. We're fixers. We're optimistic. And we're deeply empathetic. These are all the things that are a perfect match for someone like John. And I also like to say you can be smart in the brain and maybe not so smart in the heart. Right?
Yeah. Oh, I
Boy,
like that.
that's so how many years of therapy did it take you to figure all this out, Tanya?
I mean, it's taken every minute from the time I started learning about who John was. I still can get healing. The book was healing for me. I still learn things about him and about myself that lead to my healing. I didn't necessarily seek a lot of counseling for myself. It was very important for me to get counseling for my children. And I guess that was for myself too, but I really talked to a pediatric counselor for, it was 5 or 6 years after the fact, because I said, I don't know how to do this. And, I made choices that are affecting my children, and I need to know how to not screw them up in this process.
Sure.
And
now, 2 girls, right?
I have 2 daughters. Yes. Emily is 30 and Abigail is 26.
Was he like that whenever you married him, or did he become it? I mean, a lot of marriages start out and neither person is like what they are when the marriage is end up. And I speak from zero experience here because I've been married for 42 years. Jeremy's been, so he can probably speak to this better than I can, but I would assume that they don't start out like that. Or there were signs you just didn't. He was waving his flag. You just didn't see it, or what is? He held his sign up.
I
You
think
just weren't reading it.
I just think I was totally unprepared. I think John targeted me, but I was unprepared. I think maybe he wasn't as crafted as he was towards the end with the second wife that people know the story from. I think he was honing his craft along the way, but we met under circumstances where he was lying from the beginning. He was a different age. He had altered his name. He had a huge drug arrest in California. So no, I think he was a psychopath when we met, but they're able to hide in plain sight, and they don't care about consequences. They lie and cannot lose eye contact with you. If I'm lying to you, you're going to know because I'm going to look real uncomfortable. They don't look uncomfortable, and they don't care because if you don't buy into what they've got, then they just pivot to someone else.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask that same question because, I mean, you guys were together, you were married for 10 years, right? You dated
That's right.
for 2 years. So, I mean, this is a 12-year stint of a man that obviously, from what I read and background, I mean, you spoke to his mother and he had all these issues prior to, but they didn't really show up. Maybe a little bit, but I mean, everything I've read is it said, but you guys got along pretty well. I mean, it wasn't like you fought every day. It wasn't like, I mean, until I guess he started, had the affair and so forth, you really didn't realize. And then when you kind of called him out, that's when he changed, right?
That's when he flipped. Because when you start figuring this person out, they don't go away. They come after you, which is terrifying. But, part of the problem to address what you were just saying is that he was from California. Everyone who knew him, his family, he isolated me from all of them, by telling me that these are not good people. They have addictions. There was a terrible divorce between his parents. They don't get along. There's some history of mafia on his dad's side of the family. All things that, were not interesting to me at all. And, John was in a very, exclusive private Catholic law school in Dayton, Ohio. And honestly, the things that he told me, I'm like, who am I to judge you? I've got parents who are lovely and still married to this day. And you've come from this and look where you've come. I really looked at it like, good for you. Wow. Amazing. Could I have done that? Could I have come from a family like that and be, on a path to success? So
tell us about the pivot, I guess, because you said he was in law school.
Yes.
How did he decide to become a CRNA? Did he just look at you and go, wow, this looks like a great profession. I'm smart enough. I can do this.
Yeah. So it started with him telling me that they had lost his loan application and that the university was going to drop his classes if he didn't have like 50% of his tuition. And I didn't have the money. I was in anesthesia school. And so he had to leave Ohio. He went back to California, worked as a law clerk, and I believed he was going to law school in the evening. So that second year of our dating, we were in different states. So then I finish anesthesia. We get married in November. I finish anesthesia school the end of January. I moved to California. John's working full time at a law firm, going to school at night, I believe. Don't really have proof of that, but I believed he was going to school at night. And then I never saw. I mean, I feel like I never saw him between me taking my boards and having a brand new career as an anesthetist, and we traveled in opposite directions for work. So by the time the evening came, it was time to go to bed, and I really felt very lonely. And I was, telling my husband that. And so he suggested we move back to Ohio. And I said, really? Because that excited me. I wanted to move back by my family. We went back. He says that he interviewed back at the University of Dayton to get back in school and that they weren't going to let him come back for a year in the fall. And that seemed to freak him out. And he's like, you know what? I always wanted to go to medical school. What you do is really cool. And I think I want to be a nurse anesthetist. And I was like, Oh my God. But what are you going to say? I mean, I say this in my lecture. You got to tell your husband, I don't care whether you're happy or not, finish law school.
Right.
I said, well, if you're not going to be happy, I'll help support you to get there. So he only needed additional 2 years of nursing school because he had a bachelor's degree. And then he went to anesthesia school, and he did it with ease. Very
Well,
smart.
People are very smart, right?
Yes.
You have to be smart to be a sociopath.
Very smart, very charming. Yes. So
Wow.
I helped him, become a member of our profession. And then I had to help him lose that privilege.
That's right, because you reported him for diversion, correct?
Right. John asked me for a divorce right after my second child was born. And I'm like, what? I'm not that person that has a baby and then gets divorced. I mean, and so I started the snooping, which included a call to his mother who I'd never spoke to. And it included me snooping an office that he had in the basement. And I had to get up on a chair. And not only had I found, directions to a hotel in a woman's handwriting, but I had found a box of fentanyl, Versed,
Oh my God.
Narcan. There was atropine in there, I think, some other things. And I was like, okay, what is this? And something told me just to put the box back. Don't confront him. I put the box back, and then I would check it from time to time, and the inventory was changing. So in my mind, even though I've never accidentally brought home handsfuls of narcotics, I knew something was up. And of course, I eventually called his mother, and she was like, I said, this is Tanya. I'm married to your son, John. And this is a weird conversation that most people don't have, right? And she said, oh, Tanya, I knew you would call me one day. And then I was like, holy hell, the floor is about to fall out. I could just tell by what she said. And of course, I do have instincts. I just didn't listen to them. I let John, lead the narrative of who he was rather than believe myself. So she told me everything about him, that he's not that age, that he's changed his name, that he's had this arrest, and that he's currently mailing fentanyl, or not, she didn't know, drugs, to his older brother, who was a drug addict, and that they had been confronting him to stop, etc. So, now I'm in a big mess. And think about that for a minute. What would you do? What do you do in that instance? And of course, this is someone who I had loved. This is someone I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with. But as things were unfolding, I really didn't think for a second that now for any reason, I would ever take him back or accept this. So I had to, quietly just start documenting everything and get my case ready to fight him. Because once he found out that I had called his mother, he was nuts.
Now, were you
Absolutely nuts.
together still at this time because he had asked for a divorce?
No, we had separated.
Okay. He wasn't in the home.
No.
Okay. Well, that's helpful.
Yeah. He had access for a little bit, but I eventually had to get a protection order because he was, threatening me.
Now, what kind of role was he playing at that time in your children's lives?
He always put himself first. He would have some visitations at first, before I was able to get supervised visitation. He had visitation, and he frequently would just take the older, easier child, not the baby. I never felt that they were well cared for when they were with him. Even when he had visitations, there would always be another woman there. He would always drop them off at the babysitter, not spending, quality time because he didn't have a lot of quantity. He was jumping from state to state within our profession. He went to Michigan, which is where he had the initial affair that I knew about. Of course, there was many, but that's the one that took him from our marriage, was a physician in Michigan who also got pregnant. And he was practicing in Kentucky, and then he went to Indiana and then back to Ohio. And yeah, so I was following him. A detective was following him. We were keeping our eye on him, and he eventually diverted narcotics at a hospital in Ohio. He was then arrested. He was given some time to report to jail. He didn't show. He ran to Michigan. He signed out narcotics at a hospital, more than one hospital that he had worked at there. He overdosed in a hotel room, and the staff found him the next day. And they put him in an ambulance, which he fled into a JCPenney's, went up the elevator shaft, kicked a cop in the head, and then finally went to jail in Michigan for, I think it was 21 months. And Tanya finally got a minute of relief. And then he eventually lost his license, suspended or revoked his license to practice. He moved to California, where then the second part of the story begins, as he started to just doctor shop to feed his addiction and just terrorize women on dating websites. And he would use anything. John's MO is to find out things about you that seems like he's interested in you in the beginning, and then anything you privately tell him, he's going to weaponize that against you. When the time comes and you figure him out, which usually shuts the woman up. She doesn't want her lingerie photos all over the internet or in the neighbor's mailbox or a secret she might have told him about something. So he had an MO, and he usually won. And that's what allowed him to go for decades with this type of behavior. It even happened in a hospital with an anesthesiologist because he was thought to be diverting. His charts were looked at, and it was like, this isn't matching up. And there were police there, the pharmacy there. He asked the anesthesiologist to step out into the hallway. And when the anesthesiologist came back, he's like, John's a great CRNA. I don't have any problems with him. So he clearly blackmailed that guy with something he knew about him, right? I'll never know what that is, but
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big mess. This was a huge, huge mess for me.
It consumed how long of your life total?
Well, it doesn't consume my life now. It still affects my life now, but
Sure. I guess that's wrong terminology, but
yeah.
before how long?
Our marriage fell apart in 2000. I mean, that's when I learned of things. And then, he died in 2016.
Okay. So you're talking about 25 years, basically.
Yeah. Yes. But somehow I've had maybe the personality that's perfect for a psychopath, but I also had, some sort of courage and resilience faith that was able to get me, through this. And I hope that my story brings hope, because I do see a lot of stories. I'm a member of the CRNA Moms page, and, every single day there's a story on there about someone who is in a big mess. Yeah. And, sometimes it just makes me sick to my stomach, but I hope that I show that there is hope on the other side.
Yeah. Sarah, my wife's on that page, and I'm like, sometimes she shows me stuff on there. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is like a big soap opera sometimes. There's some good stuff out there too, but Tanya, why? CRNAs are trained to notice subtle changes in the OR. To notice these things. And I go back to what we talked about earlier, because it just still blows my mind. And you've been through this. You've got a PhD in this now. Why do you think people don't notice these subtle changes along the way? Is it emotional? Is it mental? What is it that make people just not realize who's sleeping next to them in the same bed?
I don't think that we don't notice. I think that we're not listening. I think we need to get better at honing our skills of trusting our instincts, because there are subtle things in someone's look, behavior, thought process that we do pick up on, but we want to push it down. We want to believe that everyone is good. And I think we need to learn that we can have a healthy dose of skepticism without being cynical, without seeming, rude. We need to ask the questions. We need to point things out. We are good at that. We've been in situations where a very kind of mean, arrogant, nasty surgeon accidentally breaks sterile procedure, and you're like, crap. I need to speak up. I need to say something. This is for the benefit of the patient. But you're like, ugh, he's going to be nasty, So it's that type of thing. We are used to standing up and doing the hard things and saying the hard things, and that needs to translate to our personal lives. I was a very polite girl. And
I'm listening to that, and I'm just thinking back to situations and so forth, even in my life. I guess the hard part of this is because you can pick up on things, and if you're too cynical, you're going to drive that person crazy, and then it's just going to be. So I'm like, where's that line? How do you kind of delineate between, all right, this is an oddity, but it's okay, or this is a psychopath?
Right. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not I'm not a psychologist, and the problem is every situation is different. The person's personality on my side is different, and the person they're dealing with is different. I don't think there's a clear answer, but I think if you're sensing something, you need to verify, whether that's asking more questions, digging deeper, snooping. I mean.
Well, I think Tanya gave us the answer to that in the beginning, Jeremy, because she talked about what made her a target. Those are all great traits to have. Those are great traits to have. I would choose you as my best friend because you're empathetic, you're nice, you're thoughtful, you're all of these things, but all of those things were bad because it made you a target. So the things that make you the person that you are also make you the target for somebody like that, right?
That's right. That's right.
But Sharon, I'm going to say something, and you're not going to like what I'm going to say.
I know where you're going to go, but go ahead.
And I know Sharon very well, and we've been friends for a very long time. But Sharon is very much like that, Tanya. You two are a lot alike in that regards. And Sharon will let people do things to her that me from the outside they would never do that to me, right? I mean, I wouldn't allow that. So I see the empathy there, but you two, and Tanya, I don't know you very well, but I'm getting the sense of it, are different types, and I'm just going to use the CRNA community, different types of CRNAs out there. We all know those CRNAs that will take you to task over every single thing, right, Sharon?
Yeah.
You two, a different personality, and that's what I was trying to get to is it is the personality. It is the personality there. Kind of like my wife. My wife is very similar to you two. She's very laid back. She's very agreeable. But boy, when she reaches that point, kind of like Pierce, Sharon.
Yeah.
When he reaches that point, you better watch out. When my wife reaches that point, you better watch out. And I'm assuming probably with you two that you're very similar to that. So again, I think it is personality. And the good thing, Tanya, about what you're doing is you're out here telling people like yourself who have that personality that pay attention, look at these things. Don't just brush it under the rug because there might be something there. There might not, but there might be. Just pay attention.
That's right. I mean, the consequences of not paying attention are great. And they can be grave. I mean, I could have been killed by this person. And we have seen that in our community. I don't know the story perfectly, but there was a story northeast somewhere where, and I think he was a male CRNA, killed his pregnant girlfriend and his ex-wife. And so the consequences can be grave. 4 women in the United States are murdered every single day by a former lover, husband, ex. I mean, you see it in the news all the time, right? So it's important, and we've got to talk about it, and we can't be judgy. It isn't really helpful. I mean, I'm not saying you're not helpful. I understand where your personality is like, oh, I would be all over that. And that is great. You have a great personality. And
Don't let him fool you. He's been suffering himself. He's just trying to be cool. He's been suckered just like I have. And ironically, we were both suckered around the same time. So
I'll tell you that story, but
which brings me to another point, a support system. I mean, clearly you are super resilient. And I see, like I said, we would be best friends. We are very similar. And I always say that I'm like a beach ball. You can push me under the water and I'll pop back out. And you are exactly like that. Or my perception is that you're exactly like that, super resilient, because this is some kind of story and you are still standing, girlfriend. But You have to have a support system. Why don't you tell us about your support system? Because without that, I don't think any of us can be as resilient.
So let me start by saying that there can be a lot of shame around being in relationship with certain people. And I also don't want anyone to think I'm a man hater or that this only happens male on female, because it doesn't. It just happens to be my story. So I want to put that out there. It's just like with substance use disorder. Shame keeps people from sharing their story, which keeps them from having the support that they need. So I would like to, it's hard. It's hard to share your story of whether it's substance use disorder or being in a relationship with someone who's like this. But I can tell you that that's when it was hard for me to tell my family and my parents. And I have, like I said, I have parents that are still married who love me dearly. But once I did, I had the support of my anesthesia community. I had the support of my friends. I had the support of my family. And I needed every bit of that. This is not something I could have done alone. I needed a detective. I needed an attorney. And I needed all of those support systems with me. So keeping it to myself, I probably would have ended up dead. Psychopaths love silence. They don't want you to talk about them. They don't want you to share things. They don't want anybody else to know. They try to isolate you. So it's important to tell someone so that you can remain safe.
I'm sitting here going through my head. I think I know a lot of psychopaths.
You might.
Don't look at me. Don't look.
You might.
No, I mean, Tanya, you've written this book, and I guess, one thing that I would like to know from your perspective is, what are the takeaways for you from all this? I mean,
well, I think one of the biggest takeaways is to trust your gut always. It's there to protect you. It's a skill I think that we need to practice just like anything else. Something I wanted to say is that, I have heard within our community that we should stop talking about John, that John isn't good for our profession. And I want to say two things. One, this isn't just a story about John. It is my story. And I am a story of what CRNAs are. John infiltrated our profession. I helped remove him from that. And I think anything you personally or professionally are trying to hide or brush under the rug is exactly what you need to be addressing. I think we need, the interview process for students. I mean, anything we can learn about through this to help better choose the people for our profession, I think is helpful. And, I also think if you read my book, you'll understand how quickly this type of person infiltrates your life through love bombing and data mining. I'm not going to go into those terms, but I think you need to take it slow, allowing anyone into your life, whether that's romantic or not. And I didn't do that.
Good points. Well, let's talk about more positive things. What's your life now? What's going on with you now? What's happening in your world?
Okay. Well, I don't meet anyone in a bar anymore like I met John.
Well, none would do that.
Yeah. I was just out dancing. I wasn't even looking for anybody. And I ended up marrying another CRNA 22 years ago. So I've been married 22 years. He has helped me raise my children. He's been a huge lover and protector of all of us. We moved to Georgia in 2007 and to be closer to my sister. But now I live out in the country. I live on 15 acres. I have goats and chickens and a big garden. I am slowing down my career. Well, gosh, I didn't even pay attention, but I just celebrated 35 years of practicing anesthesia. And this year, and partly because the book was being released and I wanted to be free to do all the things that came with the book and have fun with that, I'm down to working at most 1 day a week.
Huh.
So,
okay.
I'm enjoying that. I have a little grandbaby and she lives next door on 2 acres. So awesome. Dinner every night with the grandbaby and my daughter and her husband. It's a wonderful life. It's not perfect,
right?
But it's a good life.
Yeah. That's awesome. That sounds like a wonderful life. And, my takeaway from here is really kind of a life lesson is, we all go through things in our life, but if we can sustain that and push through it, it always gets better. It always gets better. And that's what you're a living testimony of, Tanya, is that, you experience something that the majority of people never will. And never will get as bad as what you had it. But that also gives hope for the people that are going through things that, hey, there's always a better tomorrow out there. If you just hang on, push through it, get through it, don't give up, and it will work out. And you too, to coin what you just said, have a wonderful life.
That's right. And we need to be better shepherds of each other within our community. There's a lot of judgment. Everybody has a story. Not everybody's story will make it to Hollywood. It doesn't make it less important or less traumatic or less devastating. And we need to be there for each other rather than being, judgmental. And asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of courage and strength. And whatever's going on in your life, please ask for help.
Well, as we wrap up here, anything else you want to get across or leave our listeners with?
Well, I just want to say, thank you for having me on your program. Thank you to all the people who have supported me and the book through this process. And it just goes to show CRNAs can do all kinds of things, even writing books.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Tanya, thank you. Thank you for being on. Thanks for sharing your story and all the good that you're doing, not only for the CRNA community, but for our country and our community in general, because I think what you're doing is you're bringing this to the forefront and everybody's learning from your experience. And that's very, very powerful and very important. So thank you. And to our listeners, go out and get Tanya's book, help her to spread the word and get this book out there. Already a bestseller. That's awesome. You're congratulated on that. And we wish you lots of luck moving forward and continue to have those dinners with the grandchildren and have a wonderful life.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys.
All right, Tanya. Sharon, I think it's a wrap.
I think so.
Thank you for tuning in to Beyond the Mask. If you enjoy the show and want to help us grow, the best way to support us is simple. Leave a review on your favorite podcast platform, share the show on social media, and tell your friends. Your word of mouth is what keeps us going strong. We're proud to consistently rank in the top 50 medical podcasts nationwide and to be #1 in the CRNA community. All thanks to listeners like you. Your support helps us stay there, and we couldn't do it without you. We'll see you on the next Beyond the Mask.
Are you a resident or CRNA looking to transition into independent practice? Introducing the 1099 CRNA Institute, taught by Beyond the Mask host Jeremy Stanley and Sharon Pierce. This comprehensive educational series provides detailed guidance on business structure, legal and tax implications, and financial management, tailored specifically for 1099 CRNAs. Enroll now and earn valuable continuing education credits as you chart a new course in your rewarding career. Remember, that's aana.com/1099 or click the link in the description of today's show. The 1099 CRNA Institute. Thrive as your own boss.